Grease extract systems, which are not properly maintained, will become heavily accumulated already within the first few months. Such systems are a fire danger and pose a threat to the building and its occupants. Leafer grease cleaning method is based on a combination of all existing leafer technologies in duct cleaning. This means that there's nothing new that hasn't been proven functional in the field already. The system works for all types of grease, liquidy, tar-like or burnt coal-like, due to different functions within the same machine. It's just a matter of selecting different steps in different orders according to the place and grease type. Grease cleaning is always the worst kind of job in HVAC cleaning, and yet the lowest paid. However, if you manage this kind of project, then nothing else is difficult anymore. We don't promise you the abracadabra method, or moon from the sky, but the best available equipment to do the heavy work for all kinds of grease from the whole length of the whole system. The method was originally designed for regular maintenance, not making years of negligence disappear. However, if the grease chopper can be used due to the noise factor, also thick and heavily burned grease can be released. But remember, you still need to remove it from the bottom of the duct. In practice, those sections with heavy sticky grease are mostly removed by hand. Dry grease can be brushed off. The beginning first meters from the canopy normally has the most and wettest grease. The rest is normally dry. In principle, there are 3 different types of grease: liquidy, sticky or tar-like, and crystalline or hard. In practice, there are numerous different types, olive oil, animal fat, etc., and combinations of greases, which can be in several layers of different grease types or combinations from several years of use. Also, there are several different types of duct configurations for grease extract systems. First, hand scrape the first half a meter in order to determine the amount and construction of grease layers. If there's a lot of grease, more than 0.5 centimeters on the duct surface, you need to be aware of the distance between the access opening and the vacuum unit, because if you exceed the critical amount of greasy mass, it might be difficult to get greasy granules out once they get stuck into the tar-like bottom in the suction end. It's always best to scrape as much as you can from the suction opening also, and limit the maximum length to approximately 8 meters, so that you can see what's happening. Measurements of grease and oil deposits should be measured using a wet film thickness test gauge. The use of a so-called grease comb is a very fast and cost-effective way of determining the need for cleaning. It's recommended to be used by the European Ventilation Hygiene Association, EVHA, and several country associations. This gauge is manufactured in stainless steel and is capable of measuring wet film thicknesses from 50 microns up to 800 microns at 50 micron increments. The accuracy of the WFTT gauge will be defined by a reputable manufacturer and will typically be better than plus or minus 5 microns. It's most important to ensure that any gauge is held strictly perpendicular to the substrate, since holding the gauge at an angle of 90 degrees will tend to exaggerate the measured result. Always remember to cover the surfaces, i.e. grills, ovens, etc., preferably the floor also, below the canopy, with plastic and/or cardboard. When finished, you can roll the plastic off and grease on it in a clean manner. Remember to have extra rags to wipe your feet before moving around. A rule of thumb: you can never have too many different types of hand tools and/or rags and other consumables. Remember that the amount of grease or thickness is always the most close to the source, and is always softest or stickiest at the start. In practice, the amount of grease is always a lot less after a few meters than that in the beginning. Very seldom in systems which actually have been properly maintained are there extensive amounts of grease after 10 meters from the source, except in the bends and/or reductions, etc. In the leafer range of brushes, there are several different types, due to the fact that a certain type of dirt is more easily removed with material effective against it. Sticky and wet grease will obviously attach to any type of bristle material, but specially made bristles can hold a lot more grease into itself than those suitable for normal dust. A brush with soft bristles will not be effective at all against hard attached and burned grease. The ultimate brush, if you can call it a brush, is the grease chopper. There are two different sizes. A smaller one, ranging between 250 to 550 millimeters, and a larger one, between 500 and 850 millimeters. The grease chopper can only be used with Lifa Hidemaster 40, Combi Cleaner 40, and Combi Cleaner 15, i.e. with machines virtually unbreakable. Lifa machines are the only ones powerful enough to rotate such heavy brushes. The bristles, i.e. green arms, bend, so that the metal heads will both scratch the dirt and bang and tremble the sides of the duct. The length of these four arms is easily adjustable in order to find the optimum effect for the size of the duct and the type of dirt in question. If a normal amount of metal heads is not enough, by adding more of these, you can add its weight and scratching efficiency. There's also food industry-approved nylon heads available for such systems where metal heads are not allowed to be used. More new green arms, i.e. bristles, can easily be ordered if they have deformed badly after excessive use. It's advisable to use the grease chopper as a last resort, only when other types of grease brushes are not effective. It's been used very successfully in removing other types of heavily accumulated dirt. For example, in automotive industry painting extract systems, print extracts, and cellulose pipelines. Before you start brushing dry grease, you turn the negative air machine or vacuum unit on, and turn it off only after you've stopped brushing. When brushing, you can adjust or control the place plus direction of brushing, and therefore the location of the brush in relation to the duct being cleaned, by direction of rotation and using a Lifa centering device. In case the grease is hard attached, you should use the special Lifa Y gear, which rotates two brushes at the same time at an angle of 45 degrees, enabling the tips of the brushes really to dig into the corners of rectangular ducts. Brushes with stiff nylon bristles are used so that the tips of the bristles scratch the grease, hence the brush should be exactly or smaller than the size of the duct. If the grease is half sticky and half dry, it's advisable to reduce the amount of grease with a nylon brush with stiff bristles, and then finalize with a Tynex brush or soft nylon brush. Lifa has two different types of stiff nylon bristle brushes. The first one, with a nylon center, i.e. to be used with a brush adapter, has 1 mm bristles, and the other one with M12 screw connection has more stiff bristles with 2.5 mm diameter. In a rectangular duct, the aggressive Tynex brush with bending bristles is more suitable, as it reaches to the corners of the duct also. The Tynex bristle material has a scratching effect because its surface is uneven, best described as sandpaper-like. By choosing the right size of the brush for the rectangular duct, that is typically 20 cm longer bristles than the height of the duct, you can clean the whole length of the ductwork by rotating the brush to the right while going forward, and when coming to the end of that section and coming backwards, change the rotation to the left. The brush will then stay on the left-hand corner for the whole length of coming back. For example, a 300 mm times 300 mm duct is cleaned entirely in one go by choosing a 300/500 mm Tynex brush. Risers and those horizontal sections with dry grease are most easily cleaned with Lifa equipment, especially when compared to old-fashioned practices and/or unpractical abseiling techniques. And of course, for those sections where you can't make any access doors for hand scraping, There really is no other choice in the market at the moment than the Lifer grease cleaning method. When a grease chopper can't be used, a grease detergent chemical must be used to transform the grease into liquidy format. The spraying is done via a low-pressure liquid bottle that can be pressurized by both hand or compressor. Obviously, in case you're spraying long distances, up to 100 meters, pumping by hand will be tiring. The optimum pressure to be kept in the bottle while spraying is 4 bar, so this you can create with even the smallest and cheapest air compressor. Always start first with a foaming type of alkaline degreaser, as this affects also the sides and top of the duct. Typically, this needs a reaction time of 1 to 4 hours, depending on the chemical and the conditions in the kitchen or duct. In case the grease layer is deep, you may need to resort to so-called power washing, i.e. brushing at the same time as spreading the chemical in order to reach to the bare metal surface. Liquidy grease needs to be removed very fast in order to prevent leakage and droplets from ductwork. This can be achieved fastest by spraying oil-absorbent granules into these sections. Before starting spraying granules, remember to put the negative air unit on with the lowest possible airflow in order to prevent dust from granules bursting out from the spreading point. You only need the granules if there's liquidy oil inside the duct, or if you have done power washing with a chemical and leafer brushing machine and need to dry up the duct in the end. In practice, it's needed in a maximum 20% of cases, so the granule spreading system is not a solution itself, but an accessory when needed, i.e. easier or faster methods don't suffice, or there simply is no other choice. The granule spreading machine is actually a sand blasting machine, with small modifications done by leafer engineers. But when spraying granules, there's no abrasive effect whatsoever. It's just used to shoot the granules into the duct for the length needed. For short sections of a couple of meters in length, granules may even be thrown to the ductwork, as the suction airflow will help them fly to a longer distance than the actual throw, and when brushing, they'll move further onwards also. When brushing the duct with granules inside, there's some abrasive effect, but the granule should only be used for liquidy type of grease and when there is no heavy accumulation, i.e. less than 600 micrometers, so that you can rest assured to get down to the bare metal. Your worst nightmare is that you only soften the top layer of grease into a liquidy format and a layer of sticky or tar-like grease remains underneath. The granules will then only stick to this layer. In this example, a strong alkaline detergent was put onto hard burned grease first in order to soften it and reach the abrasive effect seen. Super clean granules are sold in 25 kilogram sacks, and only this very small size of granules can be used with leafer granule spraying machines. The granule is basically clay material, or earth, that absorbs liquid plus oil. All the petrol stations and fire departments use the same kind of product for removing oil spills and so on. Typically, you need a minimum of 2 litres of granules per 1 litre of liquidy grease. It's worthwhile to estimate how much granules are needed for each section of ductwork, as it's advisable to shoot all the granules out from the tank. The granule spreading machine operates on compressed air, but for spraying granules, only between 3.5 bar with approximately 100 litres per minute is needed. So even a small handheld compressor is enough for this purpose only. The pressure is simply controlled by a valve shown here. So if the section under the work seems dry enough already, and you want to stop the spraying of granules, just stop the airflow into the tank of the granule spraying machine by closing the main valve on the side of the tank. However, a critical thing to realize is that you need a good compressor, with the capability to produce a minimum of 300 litres per minute of compressed air at 6 bar, with a constant flow for the removing of the granules from within the duct. This is done by simultaneously brushing and air jetting, because only brushing with the help of suction from the vacuum unit is not enough to move or convey the now heavy, greasy granules. So you may use 2 separate compressors, or one very good one from which you have 2 separate air lines. The other peril in using this method is that the amount of half-greasy, half-dry granules becomes too much within the length from the spreading point to the vacuum connection point. The more air-jetting power you have, the less of this risk exists. Granules can be spread by holding by hand its hose and shooting granules into the ductwork from the access opening. The more pressure there is, the longer distance the granules will fly, or the more the vacuum airflow there is, the longer the granules will fly. There's a closing valve in this end of the hose also. In smaller ductwork and longer distances, the granule spreading hose can be connected to the hose of the cleaning machine. The connection is designed so that the Y gear for rotating two brushes at the same time can also be used. Before starting the removal phase, it's advisable to remove the granule spraying hose, even though it could be used as an extra air-jetting device in case the granule container is empty and there's a good enough compressor connected to it to make an actual extra blowing effect. LIFA has a range of different types of special air-jetting nozzles according to the duct size and shape. In the very final stage, a soft brush needs to be used, as in the very end there is dry dust originating from the granules, and, as we know by now, a soft brush with soft nylon bristles removes dry dust best. Here you can see the amount of granules in a 6 mm section of 300 mm duct with approximately 2 litres of liquidy grease. In small extract systems with little grease, a separate negative air machine with a gravitational pre-filter unit may not be needed, especially when the exhaust fan is on all the time. However, if there's a lot of dry grease, or granules are being used, all dirty exhaust air must be filtered before being blown outdoors in order to prevent both dirtying the roof and dispersing more particulates into the surrounding environment. LIFA Air has also designed special accessories for this type of work with excessive amounts of dust and dirt, and also a unique odour and particulate filter to capture bad smells. Extendable support poles are a practical, fast and easy way to connect the flexible suction hose into the ductwork within the building envelope. There are also specifically made reduction pieces, from large rectangular access openings to standard 305 mm diameter hose connections used in LIFA equipment. However, if any such pieces are missing, with a little creativity, essentially the same functions can be done from whatever is found at the time from that environment, as seen in the example here. In the LIFA range of equipment, there are different sizes of negative air machines and pre-separator units, as there are very many different sizes of extract systems and environments where to use them. Obviously, the more suction power there is, the better, so it's always worthwhile to choose the most powerful one, in case they fit to the physical limits of the work environment. As mentioned before, it's essential to control the air velocity and suction power when spreading the granules. During this stage, the airflow should be kept to the minimum. This is easily arranged by a damper on the exhaust side of the vacuum unit. And when removing the granules, maximum suction power is achieved by allowing the air to come through. There's no danger of overheating with such use with a LIFA vacuum unit. It can withstand such operation for hours, and there's also a protective sensor to shut it down before damage happens to the motor. Within the pre-separator unit, a plastic disposal bag is used for easy and clean removal of dirt after the project. Finally, a normal vacuum possibly needs to be used for removing those last granules staying in the corner of the access door to the vacuum unit. So also a normal industrial grade vacuum is worth having in the van with you. In order to make profitable business, you sometimes need to say no to a project that you know can't be done in the time period the client is willing to give, or simply the client is not willing to pay the price needed to complete the work. But with a LIFA grease set, you can rest assured that the project can be finished according to needs, no matter what surprises are found during the cleaning project.